episode 150. Stand to reason, still don't understand atheists. This is Matthew, and in this episode of Still Unbelievable, I'll be responding to an episode of the Stand to Reason podcast where Amy and Greg tackle the terrifying phenomenon of an atheist who says he doesn't have a worldview. I know, shocking stuff. But before we dive into their answer, I'll lay out my position on this atheism is a worldview idea because it comes up more often than the Jehovah's Witness door knocker. Atheism is not a worldview. It's not a philosophy, it's not a lifestyle, it's not a spiritual wound, it's not even a hobby. My atheism is my answer to one question. Do I believe there is a God? No, I don't. That's it. That's the whole thing. If it were any simpler, it would be a Rubik's Cube of a single colour. My worldview, whether you want to call it humanism, scientific materialism, naturalism, or Matthew trying his best with the available evidence, is a collection of opinions, values and conclusions I hold based on what I am currently convinced is true. And those things can change. They have changed. They will change again the moment I'm exposed to evidence that compels me. At this present moment, nothing I've encountered convinces me of any gods. So I take the view that none do. My atheism is the result of my worldview, not the foundation of it. It's the conclusion, not the starting point. It's the receipt, not the shopping list. And it's from that position, the position of someone who has simply followed the evidence to a very remarkable no thanks, that I'll be responding to the comments Amy and Greg make in their episode. So let's start with Amy reading the question that kicks off the episode. See link 1 in the show notes for the full.
I am currently in a conversation with someone who claims to lack a worldview. He identifies as an atheist, but denies there is such a thing as an atheistic worldview, given atheists merely lack a belief in God or gods. His claim is that worldviews require beliefs, and he has denied holding every belief I've asked him about that atheists usually hold, materialism, etc. How would you handle this conversation?
The idea that atheism is secretly a worldview is a favourite among apologists. It's a bit like insisting that off is a TV channel or that not collecting stamps is a hobby. Now, a worldview can be atheistic in the sense that it is a worldview without any God belief, as mine is. But that does not make atheism the worldview. It's the second half of the question that interests me, and I suspect that this is a faux question created by the team so that Greg can give an answer that includes references to books he's written. We'll get to those. But let's assume the question is genuine for a minute. All we have is the question asker's view on what this atheist allegedly said. And I have doubts. I suspect there is some context missing, and the questions asked of the atheist were straw man questions about beliefs atheists are supposed to have, but turned out to be wrong. I know I've had cases where Christians have challenged me with questions about beliefs, and I have denied holding them as a belief. In fact, I much prefer to avoid the word belief altogether, and then instead use the word accept. I have seen other atheists do this too. I think that is a good thing because, for me at least, my past fundamentalist Christianity has so poisoned the word belief that it renders in my mind as a position from which the holder will never move. I do not take that view on anything. So in that narrow definition of belief, I hold no beliefs. Maybe that is what this unnamed atheist was saying in the recounted discussion. I see that as plausible. What we don't have is access to the actual conversation and the actual questions that were asked. Sadly, the way it's presented here is that of an atheist who dogmatically avoids every suggestion of belief, and that feels like a straw man constructed for an easy takedown. Christians often need atheism to be a worldview, because if it isn't, then they can't play the worldview versus my worldview game, and that game is very important to them because it lets them pretend the two positions are symmetrical. They're not. The Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy has a longer discussion on the definition of atheism. See the link at 2.
This is a dishonest dodge. This is a person who does not want to engage issues.
The problem we're about to run into here is what I've already hinted at. Greg has, in his mind, an idea of what it is to be atheist, and anything that deviates from that he calls a dishonest dodge. If you don't accept my definition of your position, you're dishonest. Very ecumenical. Very Christ-like. This is the equivalent of me insisting Christians are polytheists because of the Trinity, and then accusing them of dishonesty when they correct me. It's absurd. Nothing is being dodged here. Atheists are not obligated to accept definitions invented by people who don't understand the position they're describing. If you want to know what atheists believe, ask atheists, not someone whose job depends on straw manning them.
This is especially the case with atheists who describe themselves as someone who simply lack a belief in God.
It is perfectly possible to take the view that you lack belief in God. It's the ultimate in saying you are withholding commitment until more information is available. It's arguably the most honest position to take. I like the aliens analogy here. I lack the belief that there is another planet out there in the universe that has intelligent life on it. I simply do not have enough information to decide either way, so I take neither position. If someone wants to do the same with the God idea, that is their prerogative, and it is perfectly reasonable.
I described this problem at length in Street Smarts.
Barely a couple of minutes in, and we have a book plug. Well done, Greg.
It's an attempt to avoid any responsibility for making a case for their view.
Bullshit. This is Greg telling atheists what motivates them. Please, Greg, for once, just listen to what an atheist actually says. I'm pretty sure I made that same plea in a previous episode where I critiqued what Greg says about atheists. Please, someone tell him that.
But we don't have a view. We lack a view.
Are we talking about views or worldviews? Something smells funny here. Let's see.
This is not true, and it's not intellectually honest. And this can be demonstrated quite easily, and I describe this in the book.
Book plug.
And so here's what I would say to an atheist who describes his atheism this way. I said, okay, I understand your view. You lack a belief in God. Okay. I'm going to make a statement here, and I want you to respond. And keep in mind, when I make the statement, there are only three possible responses. You can affirm the statement, you can deny the statement, or you could withhold.
This may sound like a reasonable set of options, but notice what Greg is doing here. He's not trying to honestly understand the atheist position. He's trying to trap the atheist into a contradiction. This is his tactic. Christians like Greg do not want to understand atheists. They want to project a specific agenda onto them. And that's what this strategy from Greg is seeking to achieve. If you ever find yourself in this position with a Christian, be aware of this.
Here's the statement. God exists. Do you affirm that God exists? No, of course not. Are you neutral? That you have no opinion at all about the existence of God? Now, of course, this isn't the case either. Of course he has an opinion about the existence of God. His opinion is that God does not exist. In other words, he denies the statement.
See? The question was not an honest question to understand what the atheist thinks. It was an intentional trap so that a predefined conclusion could be asserted onto the atheist.
You think of all of the atheists who hide behind this, I mean, starting from, Richard Dawkins right on down the line.
Quoting other atheists does not tell you anything about my opinion.
Though they have no belief in God, they do have a belief about God. And the preposition is important. Their belief about God is that he doesn't exist. That's why they don't believe in him.
See? This is Greg showing his hand. In an unsubtle sleight of hand, he's taken away the option to withhold opinion pending further information.
They lack a belief in God because they have a belief about God. And this little series of questions that I offer is meant to clarify that.
What Greg has clarified is that he's not interested in understanding, he's only interested in projecting. You know what would be a fantastic thing to do here? Show an atheist how they can find God themselves. Provide the atheist with a methodology for detecting God, and the whole issue is solved. But no, Greg needs to define to the atheist what the atheist position is. It's almost as if Greg is doing everything he can to avoid his own burden of proof for his God exists claim.
You can affirm, you can deny, you can withhold. They do not affirm. That's what we do. We're theists. Mm-hmm. They do not withhold.
The atheist who's been depicted at the beginning of this episode literally said, he withholds. Come on, Greg. Don't be such a fucking cock about it.
If you deny that God exists, this entails a whole bunch of other things. It entails a rejection of objective morality.
Uh-oh. Here we go. Greg's gone on to his favourite atheist bashing topic. The problem is, there are actually atheists that affirm objective morality. See link 2.
Now, this will take a little work to show this, but I do talk about this in Street Smarts too.
Was that a book plug?
Evolution is not going to get you objective morality because biology cannot make rape wrong, period. It might make you believe it's wrong, but it can't make it wrong.
From the perspective of someone intervening to stop a rape, does it actually matter if it is really wrong or if they just think it is wrong? The result is the same.
To say I have no worldview is just, it strikes me as disingenuous and shallow.
Okay, back onto the advertised topic here. On the assumption that someone really did say that they have no worldview, then actually I'm inclined to agree with Greg here. It does seem shallow, which is why I question the accuracy of the reporting. I suspect what is being reported here is not actually what was said, and I'm disappointed that Greg isn't asking that question. But then, presenting atheists in a poor light is what his brand is about. So let's not pretend to be surprised about this.
What I've encountered is that a lot of atheists don't like the idea that they have a worldview.
Are you sure about that? Maybe they're just rejecting your idea of what their worldview is.
Now, to be fair, there isn't one atheistic worldview per se.
That is true. Thank you, Amy.
When Christians get faulted because you guys can't agree among yourself, well, atheists don't agree among themselves either. So I don't think if it's sauce for the goose, it's sauce for the gander. I don't think it's sauce for either.
Except under Christianity, there is allegedly one God with one set of rules and standards. So it is reasonable under Christianity for there to be a coherent view. With atheism, what is happening is humans are trying their best to work it out. So many people having differing ideas is actually expected under atheism and not under Christianity.
Don't think they like the idea of other ideas being entailed by a first idea. I don't think they want to be constrained. I think they want to choose all of their beliefs based on what they want to choose.
What we don't like is you telling us what we have to believe because we identify as atheists. That's the problem. Oh, and also, we don't choose our beliefs.
So the idea of saying if there's no God, then this and this and this follow. And if you want to be consistent, you need to agree to all of these things. They don't like that.
Not when it's you telling me what I need to believe because I identify as atheist. That's what I don't like. To close, if there's one thing this episode has made clear, it's that a lot of the confusion comes from Christians trying to explain atheism without checking with a natural atheist. Atheism isn't a worldview. It's just the answer, no, to one very specific question. Everything else, the ethics, the values, the way we make sense of the world, comes from the worldview that also gives us our atheism. And that's the bit Amy and Greg don't seem to acknowledge. They keep treating atheism as the foundation when really it's the conclusion. They start with God and work backwards. We start with evidence and work forwards. And unsurprisingly, we end up in very different places. So if you're a Christian who genuinely wants to understand atheism, here's the secret. Ask atheists. Not apologists, not theologians, not people whose job description includes defend the brand at all costs. Ask the people who actually hold the position. And if you're atheist listener, well, congratulations. You've survived another round of Christians Explain Atheism Badly. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay curious, stay skeptical, stay reasonable.